First strike. Commander Vivian Rhodes straightened her charcoal uniform, the single platinum insignia on her collar catching the strange purple light of the Galactic Conclave Station. At 48, Rhodes carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned her authority rather than inherited it. Her auburn hair, streaked with silver, was pulled back in a simple knot that emphasized her sharp features and analytical eyes. "Final check," she said to her team. "Remember, we represent not just the United Earth government, but every human who has ever looked to the stars and wondered." Dr. Nikolai Volkov nodded, his weathered face serious beneath a shock of white hair. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, his presence on this mission was crucial. "The Conclave members will be watching for any sign of weakness," he replied, adjusting the scanner disguised as an ornamental pin on his lapel. "Especially the Nizdari." Lieutenant Daikai Tanaka, Rhodes' security chief, performed one last check of his ceremonial sidearm, unarmed, as required by Conclave protocol. At 35, the former Special Forces operative had been personally selected by Rhodes for his calm demeanor and quick thinking. "Speaking of which," he said quietly, "Nizdari Representative Zorek has been watching our quarters. 3 separate surveillance drones in the last cycle." Rhodes nodded, unsurprised. "They've dominated Conclave politics for millennia. A new species with our potential for growth makes them nervous." She tapped the thin bracelet on her wrist, a diplomatic gift that doubled as an emergency transmitter linked to her neural implant. "Let's not keep them waiting." The doors to the conclave chamber slid open, revealing a vast amphitheater where 34 species from across the galaxy conducted their affairs. Some resembled terrestrial creatures, while others defied human categorization entirely, living crystalline structures, colonies of luminescent organisms, beings of condensed gas contained in technological shells. At the center of it all stood High Arbiter Vex, a tall, slender being with pearl-white skin and eyes that shifted through all colors of the spectrum. "The representatives of Earth may approach," the Arbiter announced, voice resonating through the translation devices in the human's ears. Rhodes stepped forward, feeling the weight of history. Humanity had detected alien transmissions 90 years ago but had wisely remained silent, learning and preparing before revealing themselves. The Conclave believed this was humanity's first venture beyond their solar system. They were mistaken. "Honorable members of the Galactic Conclave," Rhodes began, her voice steady and clear. "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Earth government. We come seeking friendship, knowledge, and peaceful cooperation." From the Nizdari section, Representative Zorek watched with 6 golden eyes narrowed in suspicion. The Nizdari had ruled through technological superiority and careful political maneuvering, ensuring no species threatened their position. Humans, with their rapid advancement from primitive technology to interstellar travel in mere centuries, represented uncertainty. Another species seeking protection, Zorek whispered to his aide, Lachine. "Their system has valuable resources and occupies a strategic position. Their development timeline is concerning." As Rhodes concluded her formal address, the questioning began. Most species showed genuine curiosity, but the Nizdari's questions probed for vulnerabilities. "And what defensive capabilities does Earth maintain?" asked Zorek, his translucent facial membranes pulsing, a sign of intensity in Nizdari physiology. "Earth maintains sufficient protective measures," Rhodes answered diplomatically. "Our focus, however, is on peaceful exchange and mutual growth." Dr. Volkov noticed how Zorek's aide transmitted something after this answer. His scanner detected encrypted communications flowing between several Nizdari in the chamber. The session concluded with the traditional exchange of gifts. Rhodes presented a crystal sphere containing examples of Earth's art, literature, and scientific achievements. "A symbol of transparency and shared knowledge," she explained. In return, High Arbiter Vex presented a ceremonial medallion. "This grants you full diplomatic recognition within the conclave." As Rhodes accepted the medallion, her sleeve pulled back slightly, revealing her emergency bracelet. Zorek's aide leaned forward, scanning the device discreetly. "Arbiter," the aide called out suddenly. "The human wears a prohibited communication device." A murmur spread through the chamber. Rhodes raised an eyebrow. This is merely a cultural timepiece, she explained calmly. It contains no prohibited technology. Then you won't mind if our security examines it, Zorak suggested, his voice silky with false concern. Before Rhodes could respond, she felt a sharp, burning sensation spreading from her chest through her limbs. She struggled to maintain her composure, recognizing immediately that something was very wrong. The pain intensified, but decades of military discipline kept her standing. "Commander?" Tanaka asked, noting her sudden pallor. "Protocol Crimson," Rhodes whispered, pressing the emergency transmitter on her bracelet as she collapsed. Dr. Volkov rushed to her side, medical scanner already in hand. "Her heart, it's failing," he shouted, genuine panic in his voice. "Something's attacking her cellular structure." The conclave erupted in confusion as medical personnel converged on Rhodes. Tanaka positioned himself protectively over his commander, eyes darting to the Nezdari delegation where Zorak watched impassively. "What's happening?" demanded the High Arbiter. "Targeted molecular destabilization," reported a Threxian medical officer, their tentacles waving in agitation. "No natural cause possible." Rhodes locked eyes with Volkov, a lifetime of service compressed into a final gaze. "Tell Earth, betrayal," she managed before her body went limp. Commander Vivian Rhodes, humanity's first official envoy to the Galactic Conclave, was dead. In the chaos that followed, no one noticed Zorak's satisfied nod to his aide. 3 days later, on Earth, Defense Director Rajiv Patel stood in the massive underground command center known as the Citadel. At 62, the former admiral had hoped never to activate the contingency plans he had helped design. A holographic display showed Rhodes' final message, transmitted directly through quantum channels no alien technology could detect. "Betrayal," he said quietly, the word hanging in the air. Colonel Olivia Weston, his second-in-command, stood at attention nearby. "All evidence points to the Nezdari." Dr. Volkov's hidden scans detected energy signatures consistent with their molecular disruption technology. And the Conclave's official position? Natural causes. They are claiming Commander Rhodes had an undiagnosed genetic condition. Patel's expression hardened. "Activate Crimson Protocol. Immediate effect." "Yes, sir," Weston responded, turning to the operations console. "Initiating system-wide alert. Authorization, Weston Tango 94 Epsilon." Across Earth and throughout the solar system, humanity's true capabilities began to stir. Colonial outposts went dark. Commercial vessels vanished from conclave tracking systems. Communication with alien entities ceased. In orbit, thousands of stealth satellites activated, creating an impenetrable sensor barrier around Earth's solar system. To outside observers, it appeared as if humanity had simply disappeared, a dark void where once there had been activity. On the conclave station, Dr. Volkov and Lieutenant Tanaka were placed under protective observation. In reality, they were prisoners, though treated with diplomatic courtesy. "They think us primitive," Tanaka whispered to Volkov in their quarters. "They have no idea what's coming." Volkov nodded grimly. 90 years of preparation. The Nezdari just woke a sleeping giant. In his private chambers, Zorak received disturbing news from his intelligence operatives. "What do you mean, Earth has gone dark?" he demanded. "All human outposts have ceased communication. Our monitoring stations can no longer penetrate their system. Earth itself has vanished from our scanners," his aide reported nervously. "Impossible," Zorak scoffed. "Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Nevertheless, it has happened. And there's more, the conclave representatives we sent to Earth are now under what humans call protective custody." For the first time, Zorak felt uncertainty. This was not the reaction of a primitive species. This was not fear or confusion. This was preparation. "Deploy the Peace Enforcement Fleet," he ordered sharply. "It's time to show these humans their proper place." Little did he know that humanity had spent nearly a century preparing for this moment. As Nezdari warships began their journey toward Earth, sensors hidden throughout the galaxy tracked their movements. In the Citadel, Director Patel watched the approaching fleet on a holographic display. "They are coming," Colonel Weston reported. 27 vessels, heavy armament. Patel nodded slowly, his expression grim but resolved. Deploy the Ghost Fleet. Activate the Crimson Ring. Throughout the Kuiper Belt and hidden in the shadows of distant moons, ships that officially didn't exist powered up their systems. For decades, humanity had secretly built a defense force using technology reverse-engineered from intercepted alien transmissions. The Nezdari thought they were coming to discipline a primitive species. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Crimson Horizon. Representative Zorek stood on the command deck of the Nezdari flagship Inevitable Dominance, watching as his fleet approached the Sol system. The 27 warships, sleek, predatory vessels with pulsing crimson energy cores, represented the most formidable peacekeeping force the Conclave had deployed in centuries. "We'll reach Earth's outer system boundary in approximately 6 hours," reported Fleet Commander Vex, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the bridge lights. "Still no response to our communications." "They are hiding," Zorek said dismissively. "The death of their ambassador has thrown them into disarray." A primitive reaction from a primitive species. Chief Strategist Nixera, a female Nezdari whose tactical brilliance had won many confrontations without firing a shot, seemed less certain. The complete communications blackout is unusual. Most species become more vocal when threatened, not silent. Zorek flicked his membrane in irritation. "Irrelevant. Once we establish orbital dominance, they'll have no choice but to accept our terms. Begin preparations for planetside deployment." Across the void of space, Director Rajiv Patel stood aboard the command vessel Defiance, hidden within the rings of Saturn. Unlike the ostentatious Nezdari vessels, Earth's Ghost Fleet ships were studies in functional elegance, matte black hulls that absorbed rather than reflected light, with minimal external features to reduce sensor profiles. "Nezdari fleet continuing on projected course," reported Tactical Officer Wei Zhang. "They'll cross the Crimson Line in approximately 5 hours, 42 minutes. Patel nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the soft red glow of battle stations. "Status of the Ghost Fleet." "All for 12 vessels at full combat readiness," Colonel Weston replied. "The Crimson Ring is fully deployed and operational." The Crimson Ring, humanity's masterpiece of defensive engineering. Thousands of autonomous platforms strategically positioned throughout the solar system, each armed with weapons the Conclave believed were centuries beyond human capability. "An Operation Sunlight?" Patel asked. "Dr. Volkov has made contact with his Palaxian ally," Weston confirmed. "The evidence is being compiled for presentation to the full Conclave." Patel's expression hardened. "Good. Now we wait." On the Conclave station, Dr. Nikolai Volkov sat in the small common area outside his restricted quarters, seemingly absorbed in reading cultural data on his tablet. In reality, he was waiting. "May I join you?" came a melodic voice. Volkov looked up to see Thelix, a young Palaxian clerk whose bioluminescent patterns shifted in gentle blues and greens. The Palaxians, a species known for their devotion to truth and justice, had been among the first to question Rhodes' natural death. "Please," Volkov said casually, gesturing to the empty seat. Felix sat, his slender arms arranging themselves in a posture of respectful conversation. "I've been researching human cultural traditions," he said, loud enough for any surveillance to hear. Then, barely above a whisper, "I have what you requested." Under the table, one of Felix's lower hands passed Volkov a small data crystal. "Our funeral traditions are quite diverse," Volkov continued normally. "Some cultures celebrate death as a transformation, while others mourn it as an ending." Felix's upper eye stalks bent forward in genuine interest. "Fascinating. And what of Commander Rhodes? How would she have wished to be remembered?" "As a seeker of truth," Volkov said firmly. "Nothing would honor her more than discovering what really happened." The Palaxian's skin flickered with patterns that translated to determination. "The Arbiter has finally agreed to review new evidence," he whispered. "Tomorrow's full session." The Nezdari objected, but 17 species overruled them. Volkov nodded slightly. Now he just needed to survive until tomorrow. Lieutenant Daikai Tanaka had spent 3 days carefully observing the patterns of the Nezdari security forces. Unlike Volkov, he wasn't being subtle. As the station's central promenade emptied for the sleep cycle, Tanaka deliberately stepped into a restricted area. Alarms immediately sounded. Within moments, 4 Nezdari security officers surrounded him, their weapons drawn. "Human Tanaka," barked the lead officer, "you have violated security protocols." Tanaka raised his hands slowly. "My mistake. Still learning the station layout." "A deliberate violation," the officer growled. "You will come with us for questioning." "Perfect. Exactly as planned." Aboard the Defiance, a communication officer turned to Director Patel. "Sir, incoming transmission from Lieutenant Tanaka's emergency beacon. He's being moved to the Nezdari security sector." "Right on schedule," Patel nodded. "Alert Dr. Volkov. Phase 2 begins now." The Nezdari fleet crossed the invisible boundary that humanity had established at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. "We've entered the Earth system proper," announced Navigator Krex. Still no sign of human defensive measures. Fleet Commander Vex relaxed slightly. "As expected. Increase speed to standard approach vector." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "Energy spike," shouted a sensor operator. Massive activation signatures appearing throughout the system. On the main display, thousands of previously invisible platforms revealed themselves, their weapons systems locking onto the Nezdari vessels. "Impossible," Zorek whispered, his membranes paling to a sickly yellow. "Their technology." A communication channel opened, and Director Patel's stern face appeared on the screen. "Nezdari vessels, you have entered restricted space. You were warned. This is your only opportunity to withdraw." Zorek recovered quickly. "This is Representative Zorek of the Galactic Conclave. We are on a peacekeeping mission authorized by—" "We know what you did to Commander Rhodes," Patel interrupted coldly. "We know why you're here. You have 60 seconds to reverse course." Zorek turned to Fleet Commander Vex. "Launch preliminary strike. Target their primary defensive platforms." Vex hesitated. "Sir, we're outnumbered and potentially outgunned. We should launch the strike." Zorek shouted, membrane flaring red with rage. The Nezdari flagship fired first, a devastating energy weapon that should have vaporized its target. Instead, the beam dispersed harmlessly against invisible shields. 60 seconds have elapsed," Patel said calmly. "You've made your choice." Across the void, the Crimson Ring activated. Precision beams of concentrated energy sliced through space, targeting the weapons and propulsion systems of 13 Nezdari vessels. The ships didn't explode, they simply went dark, drifting helplessly. On the remaining ships, chaos erupted as systems failed sequentially: communications, weapons, shields, life support backups. Only essential systems remained functional. "What's happening?" Zorek demanded, watching in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically disabled without a single ship being destroyed. "They are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported a communications officer, her voice shaking. "Let it be known," came Patel's voice, "that humanity chose restraint today. We could have destroyed your fleet. Instead, we offer mercy and justice. Evidence of your assassination of Commander Rhodes is being presented to the Conclave as we speak. Return to the station immediately." On the Conclave station, the emergency council session was in uproar. Dr. Volkov stood at the central platform, the data crystal from Thelix connected to the main display system. This security footage shows Representative Zorek activating a device moments before Commander Rhodes collapsed, he explained, the evidence playing for all to see. "And these are the medical scans taken by our equipment and the Conclave medical team." The evidence was damning. Rhodes had been murdered using a specialized Nezdari weapon that disrupted cellular cohesion at the molecular level. "Where did you get this footage?" demanded the Nezdari representative who had replaced Zorek. "This is fabricated. The footage was retrieved from the station's original security network," explained Thelix, stepping forward. "A system the Nezdari apparently didn't know still existed when they deleted the evidence from the main system. Their High Arbiter's color-shifting eyes had settled into a deep, solemn blue. And Lieutenant Tanaka? Where is he now? As if on cue, the chamber doors opened. Tanaka walked in, escorted by representatives from 7 different species. His face showed evidence of harsh interrogation, but he walked with dignity. The lieutenant was subjected to illegal questioning procedures, announced a Threxian representative. We found him in a restricted Nezdari facility where he was being tortured for information about Earth's defensive capabilities. The chamber erupted again, but this time in unified outrage against the Nezdari. And now, Volkov continued when order was restored, I present the most disturbing evidence of all. He activated the final recording, a real-time feed showing the disabled Nezdari fleet and their vastly superior human defensive network that had been hidden throughout the solar system. Impossible, whispered several delegates at once. For nearly a century, Volkov explained, humanity detected your transmissions, studied your technology, and prepared, not for war, but for the possibility that not all species would welcome us as equals. We came in peace, yet Commander Rhodes was murdered to prevent a shift in the balance of power. Their High Arbiter stood solemnly. In light of this evidence, I call for an immediate vote. The actions of Representative Zorek and the Nezdari government represent a grave violation of conclave law. I move for sanctions and reparations. The vote was nearly unanimous. Only the Nezdari and their closest allies opposed. 1 month later, Director Patel stood before the newly constructed memorial to Commander Rhodes in Geneva. The sleek obsidian monument reflected the cloudy sky, its surface inscribed with Rhodes' final words, "Tell Earth, never bow." Colonel Weston approached, tablet in hand. "The conclave delegation has arrived, sir. The new power-sharing agreement is ready for ratification." Patel nodded. "And the Nezdari? Their influence has collapsed. 7 systems formerly under their control have requested Earth's protection instead. They are afraid of what else we might have hidden." A ghost of a smile crossed Patel's weathered face. "Ironic. They killed Rhodes to prevent humanity from gaining influence, and in doing so, guaranteed it. Was it worth it, sir?" Weston asked quietly. "Revealing our true capabilities." Patel looked up at the monument, remembering the woman who had willingly walked into danger knowing she might not return. "Rhodes believed in showing strength through restraint," he said finally. "We disabled their fleet when we could have destroyed it. We presented evidence when we could have declared war." He placed a hand on the cold stone. "The galaxy now knows 2 crucial things about humanity: we cannot be bullied, and we will not be conquered." Above them, the clouds parted, revealing a sky turned crimson by the setting sun. A new age had begun, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. In the great void between stars, the balance of power had shifted. The Nezdari had thought humanity would bow. Instead, the sky had turned red with the dawn of human ascendance.